Hello, Culture Matters podcast. We are back again with another 30 days of thought. The information age. Thinking about the information age, I want you to think of the power of a podcast, the power of your social platforms, the power of your word, of you, the lives that you could touch, the opportunities that you can create, the friendships that you could develop. So much of what we have today, Culture Matters, has come as a result of me getting on this camera or this audio and saying things that I thought many years ago, interviewing people that I wanted to meet and develop relations with. So when you're thinking about information age, and I'm reading this excerpt from 30 Days of Thought, written all those years ago, I want you to think about how it can relate to you and how you use your social platforms and what podcasts you listen to. And maybe there's a podcast in your heart, in your mind, in your body that you've yet to start, or something that you've yet to share online that you've been yearning to share, or a book inside of you that you've yet to write, so you just don't know where to start. And keep reading along with me, writing to develop, listening to hear what is unsaid, and speaking to let go. You might hear my voice sounds a little off today. I've been sick, and I have every reason not to do this, and that's why I must. So without further ado, here's page 67, 30 Days of Thought, Information Age. And I'll share some of my thoughts on this right after. Throughout history, one thing has always come to change: culture. When Alexander, the son of Zeus, conquered the known world at the age of 31, his influence is all of what lasted. It may not have been Alexander the Great's heir who reaped the benefits of his savage grind, but those who conquered, the survivors, and the cultured witnessed the coming information age. History tells no lies, but only happenstance and circumstance. Therefore, due to Alexander's conquests, the Eastern world benefited from the desert to the forest timberlands of Mother Russia, up in India into Egypt itself. The common tongue left the possibility of a new religion to spread 300 plus years later: Christianity. All this due to one man, and that is the power of culture. Throughout time, there have been times of great progress and enormous dread. Through the spread of ignorance, malevolence, fear, and even hope, a ruler is needed. Today is a new day. It is your world to conquer. In this new age of information, of hope, and of light, anything is possible. Without fear of persecution or extreme harm, we may all soak in the knowledge and bask in the euphoria of knowing we may bear influence. Like the Western world post printing press or the Egyptian empire at height for the first time, us common folk may absorb, purify, and spread information. For the first time, the power leans toward the masses, and it is our culture's responsibility to spread positivity and joy. We must submit to this responsibility. The world has changed, and we must adapt, because without adapting, our empire will crumble. We will perish, and our culture will die. Similarly to the trials of past generations, we will get overthrown and absorbed by a stronger foe, a better enemy, a competitor ready and aware. In the days of information, knowledge is power to be reined in with action and foresight. It is our duty in this time to be aware, because information matters, and our conquerors have proven that. Let's raise our swords and make a vow forever to be aware of the information that is provided to us. Spread the word and commit to our current culture, because culture matters. When I'm thinking about making a difference, look at this platform. The theme in here is one person can change the world. You don't underestimate the difference that you can make in the world. Don't underestimate the difference that you make every day with the way that you treat others, the value that you provide, whether that's to your employer or whether that's to your customers, and the inspiration that you give to your employees with your example, the Don't underestimate the value that you could bring. We could sit on these social platforms all day long and scroll and consume and absorb other people's stories and narratives. But at some point, what am I going to share of value? What are you going to share of value? There's Don't underestimate how big of a difference that you can make in the world. Let's look at this podcast. So, for example, the hundreds of guests I've had this opportunity to develop relationships with at the time of this recording, close to 300 guests. It's somewhere closer to 260, half of which I'd say I'm very close, and a half of that half deeply close, and a half of that half very, very close, and a half of that half's half like family. Then, additionally, too, we have you, the listener. If you're listening to this, the listenership, our culture family has grown exponentially over the last almost 5 years, just by me leaning into get to know different guests on a deeper level, have them come back, desire to represent their journey, their hero's journey over years, have them come back and share with you, the listener, and our audience what they've learned and even what's unsaid, who they're becoming in the process of growing their companies, their lives. There so much power has come from the show just by leaning in to other people and asking that next question, putting in a little bit extra effort and preparation, ask the best possible questions, let people speak, be a conduit of other people's thoughtfulness to present their ideas in the best possible light so that they can grow as they come back to the show over time. And we can grow with them as listeners of the Culture Matters podcast. Recently we lost one of our guests. And I challenge you to listen to the tribute, John Schwartz. He's like family, and he's been on the show 10 times. We can go back to every single episode of John and listen to who he was as a man, as a father, as a husband, as an advisor, his friends, his family. Can listen to those episodes and track along years and years of his growth as a businessman and as a provider. The impact that I'll be able to make with this show. I hope that it shows you how much of an impact you can make as just someone with a social media platform that's deciding to put out something of value, whether that's spotlighting other people or sharing what you think, what you feel on topic that you're passionate about, like I am with culture, or whether that's bringing other people's genius out the way that I do through the interviews. Look at the guests, look at the listeners. The evolution of this show, the Culture Matters podcast, I hope exemplifies how much of a difference you can make in the lives of other people by spending a little extra time leaning into a conversation. Without the camera on, I've chosen to live the lessons that I'm learning in real time with you over the past few years through the Culture Matters podcast. And I found myself more present and more aware and more honest in interactions with other people, less anxious, desiring to be somewhere other than I am, more present. People are a lot more interesting, or they're as interesting as I take interest in them. So in real time, you're watching me become a better listener, a better person by taking interest in other people. And in the information age, this is logged and categorized and in inventory forever. It'll live forever. So all of our guests are going to live forever on the Culture Matters podcast. John will live forever through the Culture Matters podcast. I'm reminded of Beyond Order, rule number 7. Work as hard as you possibly can on at least one thing and see what happens. Work as hard as you possibly can on at least one thing and see what happens. Brings me back to the Culture Matters podcast. Work as hard as I possibly can at one thing and see what happens. Interviewing people, having conversations with friends that I collect over the years that were formerly strangers introduced by guests that have become friends, that are now regulars, that introduce strangers, that become regulars, that become friends, that become a part of the Culture Matters podcast family, and putting out these monologues on 30 Days of Thought and culture topics and just letting the show evolve, take a life of its own. So passionate about this platform because I believe in it. I believe that we're growing a culture together. You're seeing me develop relationships in real time with guests that I consider friends. Some are client partners, some may will end up being those that we work with and serve as a firm. Others just friends and patriots in the war against average and the desire to educate and inspire. And I'm reminded of that rule 7 in Beyond Order. Work as hard as you possibly can on at least one thing and see what happens. I believe in 5 years, this show will have thousands and thousands of episodes. And you're seeing now series pop up with myself and other guests on different topics, like what would our value investors top or investors series with Alec Arena. We've got other episodes interviewing subject matter experts in Christine's new book, High, Selling is a Drug, and so many other series that are popping up in the show, not just monologues and 30 Days of Thought and interviews with unbelievable people. I believe that you're going to grow with me through this medium, and maybe it'll inspire you to start your own show or to contribute to our show. Reach out to me to be on the show as a listener. Send us guests. In the information age, each of us has access to information as well as access to influence, an opportunity to influence others, an opportunity to position ourselves as a subject matter expert and build authority in a specific space or multiple. Mine is culture, and we're growing together, building this platform. So I'm on page 67, 68, 69 in 30 Days of Thought, the information age. Don't underestimate how much of an impact that you can make. Like somebody like Alexander the Great, who in his early 20s, I think he was 20 years old when he took over his father's army, about 40,000 men with the Sarissa spear, crossing the Hellespont, winning that first battle against one of Darius's generals, having never lost battle in a 10-year campaign, chasing Darius across the Persian Empire, his own men having cut his head off to bring it to Alexander and taking over North Africa and India and the whole world. It wasn't the point I was making that excerpt that it's not as if his heirs reaped the benefits of what he had done, but it was hundreds and hundreds of years later. They say that his conquest sowed the seeds for Western cultures, or what would become, Western culture, the spread of Christianity and some of those ideas that would later influence the world in a positive or a constructive way. Maybe the things that you put out online won't influence your life. Maybe everything that I'm doing in my lifetime won't actually make any difference. And even maybe my time will never come. I'll never become accepted by the culture or become as successful as I had hoped. But maybe hundreds of years later, whatever I'm doing on this show will impact someone, and maybe you could look at the same way. Your life may not appear to have much meaning or impact on others outside of yourself. You don't know the degree of impact that your life could have on the world. by just deciding to be the best version of yourself and leaving it all on the table. Just like today, I didn't want to record this, but who knows? Maybe you needed to hear this today, and how you're going to act next in the world is going to impact someone else in a positive way. So, information age, 30 days of thought. Keep reading to think, writing to develop, listening to hear what is unsaid, speaking to let go, putting out your content, following along, 30 days of thought. The next one is humans shouldn't be cops. And we will see you next time on the Culture Matters podcast. Please leave us a review on the Culture Matters podcast.